Okay. Then moving on to, any other questions from that on the following page, 10.1.5 to 10.1.7?
Question.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Downey.
We had an auto repair shop along Line Road, and the owner said after the fact, I wasn't required to pave the parking area out front or to provide a sidewalk. Had that been required, I would have sought funding and just done it all in one. But to come and do it after the fact is a different ballgame, as we all know. So for future development along Line Road, for properties that face Line Road, how are we going to ensure that those things happen?
Through the chair, that's a great question, Councillor Downey. So we've already added provisions to the parking requirements for driveways and how driveways are addressed, and they have to be either with concrete, asphalt, or an equivalent dust-free component to them. So how those get done is either at subdivision or building permit. It triggers your subdivision and development servicing bylaw. At that time, the provisions of the zoning bylaw and the subdivision development servicing bylaw must be complied with prior to that building permit being finalized. So that's how you would capture that through the reviews and approval processes for new uses and development.
And before our CAO talks, I actually was looking at our other bylaw, and a paved driveway, at least for municipal, was always in there. So it was never enforced. It was always a requirement. If you built a new house, you had to pave your driveway. Was that also the case with businesses?
Yes, Mayor Wickstrom, it actually has specifically been outlined in our subdivision and planning document, which goes back to 1997, which, if it's the same building that I'm thinking of, would have been susceptible to that, as well as it's always been in our zoning bylaw for as far back as I can see. So it just simply wasn't enforced.
Okay. Councillor Downey?
So I think that where my concern comes to is this provision that a dust-free material. We do have some properties in town where we have now got dust-free material for driveways in a residential area. And the argument would be on this particular one, it's a dust-free material in their front area. So I wonder if we shouldn't be revisiting this dust-free and going straight to concrete or pavement and be really specific.
I tend to agree. That's been in my bonnet, and it's been up to staff to improve it. But like, we're missing the point when every time somebody pulls out gravels on the road, right? It may not be dust. So, you know, as a cyclist, we have had letters from local cyclists saying that's an issue for the streets.
Except that it says compacted dust-free, and so to me,
It never stays compacted.
Yeah, that's so, you know, asphalt or concrete stays compacted. And, you know, they could get a water truck downtown here and go around and keep the dust down, but there's going to be times when they're not on it, dust comes up. Like, there's ways to get rid of dust, but the best way is asphalt and concrete.
Is that a motion I would make here at this point, is that we retract the ability to use dust-free material or whatever that specific wording is, take that out?
Through the chair, yes, that would be a motion that we can make here, and we could clean that up quickly as part of the zoning bylaw.
I'd like to make that motion.
So just for procedural wise, I think it's the mayor who brings it back, and I'll say, yeah, I can see that that's definitely, sorry, go ahead. Is that what, a motion that was earlier defeated, or?
If I may, just to read from the proposed zoning bylaw, which I feel captures what Councilor Downey is talking about. It says be surfaced with asphalt, concrete, or equivalent material. So
gravel is not equivalent.
Yeah.
So there's that rubberized compound, there's that pebble rock, there's all kinds of different.
So that's what Kevin's got proposed currently.
Kevin, will that address my concerns?
I believe it will, but that comes down to how future staff and council interpret that. Right? What is equivalent? right? And so if you want to make it 100% explicit, you go surface with asphalt or concrete, period. That makes it explicit. It doesn't provide any flexibility or leeway outside of that without a development variance permit.
So that if somebody wanted to do a nice driveway with bricks and that, because I've seen in the city, they've got that pebble stone and nice brickwork and that, then they've got to apply for a development variance permit?
That'd be correct, because brickwork and that is not covered under the asphalt or concrete component.
Councillor Mitchell?
That was exactly, you raised exactly the issue I think is important. That, yeah, a brick paved area does a couple of things. It looks nice, and it also allows permeability and helps to reduce runoff. So it's nice to have that option. I don't know how you can fit it in there. I couldn't write it. Somebody else has to. Yeah, Kevin, I guess you're somebody else.
I guess when I read, or an equivalent, and I hear the point about somebody else might apply that differently. But if I was a homeowner, I'd be like, oh, that brickwork and that nice work isn't equivalent. Whereas if I see pavement or asphalt, I might not know that I can apply for a development variance permit to do something fancy schmancy on my driveway. So, yeah, that's what I'm struggling with, that's all.
The bricks made out of concrete. Is there a wording you could give us on that one?
Yeah, so this is what I've added. Concrete or equivalent hard surface dust-free material such as brick or pavers as approved by the town.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. So you, that's, Councillor Downey, okay, I'll second that, or I guess I can. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Now to M2 zone.
Could I ask you to see that on the map?
Let me I'll be right there. I'm just catching up to the M2 zone and then I'll bring the map up, Councillor Cole. Boom. So at this stage, the only M2 zone that we have located in the town is this area here.
If I may.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I struggle with M2 being there when right next to it's CD1. That's supposed to be our future, waterfront houses and development. And then right next door, where we could have a wrecking yard. Everyone would hear it. There was, we talked about a shipbuilding facility there that would be noisy. Yeah, I personally think that zone maybe should just be A1 rural. If somebody wants to come to us with a plan or something, we could look at it, but it just doesn't really sit well with me next to that future development.
Kevin, where's so the Hyde Creek line is the black line?
So this line right here, Councillor.
Mm-hmm.
This is the boundary of the local government. Right there. Does that help answer your question?
I think so.
Regional district, town of Port McNeill.
And currently industrial, we have in there Lemaire, propane.
I would argue the mayor is not really industrial, it's just an office,
An office.
which is not commercial. So that's no additional expansion of that office under this proposed zoning.
think you're right, it needs to change, but does it go to C1 or does it go to A1?
C1 meaning
Commercial.
some
Or C2.
grandiose future development.
And that next to it there, that's that's the airport, correct? Airports. What's that grade? Sorry, Kevin, that is,
I believe that's the wastewater treatment facility, Chair.
yeah, thank you.
That's zone public use.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we're at it. Kevin, can we discuss the marine, the water use right above it? Because that's the next one on our line. I guess that's MIH. So again, I want to point out we could have a log dump and a log sort and log storage, fuel and gasoline, boat salvage all there. And they're allowed to go 15 meters from the high water mark. So potentially a pretty heavily, could be potentially heavy industrial use of that area.
But it's also the only place where we have deep sea. And so if you're talking about future economic activity, we would be taking that opportunity away.
I think if somebody wanted to do a deep sea port, they could, you know, come to us with a proposal and we'd consider it, but I don't think it's a carte blanche, the best use of that area. If you look, all the residents in the East Drive, you'll be looking right at that. It's like across the bay. They're gonna hear everything. You know how sound travels in water, so.
The same could be said for Ledge Point, Derek. That could turn into a log dump tomorrow.
We don't control Edge Point. We control this land, so we might as well.
Through the chair, we did have some of these discussions earlier on in the process, probably about, I don't know, 8 months ago. And one of the reasons we kept it this way, specifically with the deep sea one, is because there's an existing lot, actual water lot there. My understanding, the lease and the lot has been established for that particular industrial deep sea port use. And that's one of the reasons we've maintained the water lot zoning the way that we have. With regards to the upland industrial zoning, it doesn't make sense to have a industrial water lot zoning if you don't have adjacent industrial zoning also. And so that's why these were kept as is, as was consistent with the existing zoning. The concerns with regards to future development of the CDA parcel, yeah, you know, that is certainly a consideration that when the landowner would come in, that they'd have to look at providing buffering and things like that to their adjacent uses, which is consistent with anybody developing anywhere. So I think they're valid concerns, Councillor Cole, and something certainly council can provide direction on. But I just wanted to provide some context of why this was kept the way it has been on this map.
Can I ask, I heard somebody say that's the only deep water for a large vessel within our control. Is that right? You can put a pier there and tie up a big ship. Is that what the somebody was saying? Gabby, was it you that said that? Remember?
I thought so.
That used to be the case, Ryan. There used to be a large jetty there and mining and fuel supplies came in and out.
Well, we certainly need industrial development. So, and I think that we certainly can't plan for anything happening on the CDA. It's been there for 15 years and they haven't done a thing with it. And they can sacrifice some land for a buffer. I think we should leave that the way it is for industrial purposes at this time.
Was there a motion on the table? I'm not entirely sure. There wasn't, okay. All right,
So Councillor Mitchell, are you suggesting perhaps we should look at that area for future, like an industrial park maybe, or?
It's already zoned to M2. We could zone it. I don't know what's allowed completely in M2. I didn't look through that bylaw. Perhaps it could be switched to M1.
I I'd like to make a motion that we remove wrecking yard. I mean, wrecking yard is ugly. And, you know, but the rest of the uses there, to me, seem,
I would say with the exception of F, manufacturing, processing heavy, that's different than M1. And to me, that I just worry about sound. So I'd be inclined to just call it M1.
Is that a motion?
I don't know. Which is one.
We didn't have a second. No, that's fine.
Not yet, no.
I'll motion that we strike the definition of.
I'll second that.
What's the motion?
Yeah,
Wrecking yard from M2. You had a question, Councillor, Karen?
I was just gonna say, it seems when Shelley speaks on that side of the room, it barks in and out. So I was just gonna ask for a repeat of the motion as well.
Yeah, I think the dilemma is we tend to look at the screen when we're talking at you guys when we should be looking at the microphone.
My motion is that we strike wrecking yard from to.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
Councillor Cole is opposed.
Yeah.
And you wanted to add something? Councillor?
No, thanks.
Anything else on M2 there? We'll move to Marine M8. 10.3. You could bring that up on the map. That would be awesome when you're finished taking your notes there, Kevin.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just saving the document, make sure we don't lose any of those changes.
Any questions on the MH? Oh, yeah, you were going to show on map. Sorry.
That would be, we look here, this purple color.
And that is one up. Oh, over there. Okay. For Western has their log dump and everything at the moment, correct?
Correct.
Good. Councillor Cool?
So, Kevin, to your previous point, if we've got a dock, you want industrial use next to it. So in this case, we have, it's entirely, that water lot's entirely zoned A1 around it. The land is zoned A1, which is nothing to do with industrial. So I'm just trying to square that. I get it. The A-frame, I think it says
A1.
the land's A1, but the water is
MH1.
MH1, which says you can go 15, you can use or use 15 meters in.
Mhm.
Which would pretty much cover that whole A-frame.
Yeah, so the A-frame would fundamentally be covered under exactly, Councillor Cole, the water zoning in this case because of that provision for 15 meters from the water edge.
And so it's the council, so the rest of that land is A1.
Mhm.
Our intention is that's going to be A1 use, or like most people sort of are envisioning industrial or logging operations on the land there.
So the A1 zone, when you look at the A1 zone and the use of the A1 zone historically, it's been fundamentally used for sort of rural resource in many ways, as a rural resource zone, as a whole, and as a holding zone within the community. And you see that the way that the zone has been used. Very common throughout British Columbia, because in BC, you're not allowed to have holding zones. And so what you see community, like your Hoy Bay lands and things like that, you've zoned them as A1 because it allows for those to act as a holding zone for future potential uses. And that's what's occurred in Port McNeill in many locations. And so that upland A1 lands is basically a rural resource and holding zone for future potential uses.
So I guess I'm wondering, to flip back to our I'm not asking you to check the map, but our OCP big picture map says future housing and recreational in that area. So
Yep.
if that's our intention, why, I'm asking this to council, why would we be continuing with an industrial use of the A-frame? Or perhaps maybe our long-term OCP vision would be industrial on the foreshore or commercial development on the foreshore or future C1.
Can I speak to that, Member Bergstrom? That particular piece of real estate where the A-frame is located, the breakwater, from a marine point of view, it's pretty much been destroyed. And so when somebody comes in there, like the folks that are working in there right now and wants to do something, they don't have a whole lot to protect because it's not there anymore. If those operations are moved elsewhere, the sea life on the bottom, wherever they want to head, is probably going to be thriving, and they're going to have a big hurdle to overcome to relocate operations such as the ones that are occurring there elsewhere. It's already built and paid for infrastructure that would be good for us to encourage it to continue in a similar use that maximizes its value to the owners or to whoever happens to rent it or lease it or whatever. So I don't think I would want to see that be eliminated. I think somewhere along the line we have to provide an opportunity for a marine business to grow in our community, and that seems to me to be a good start.
Councillor Downey? You had your hand up?
That particular property is being used currently to generate revenue and provide jobs here in town. I can see the day where perhaps that goes away when there's no more boats to dismantle, and that becomes a pier of sorts and has a more of a recreational use. But I think that's for the business community and the landowners to determine how best they can generate revenue from their property. So I'm satisfied as with the zoning as it currently stands.
Meaning the old zoning or the new proposed zoning?
Right now, A1.
Well, you're talking about MH1 is actually, the two work together, but in MH1, we've added boat salvage decommission. Make sure we're aware of that. And Kevin, is boat salvage and boat repair different, right? Like, could somebody do boat repair there?
Under the boat salvage, no. Boat salvage is about salvage and dismantle, is my understanding. And so it's about pulling boats out of the water and salvaging and dismantling.
We used to have a grid where your boat could get out of the water and you could do your own thing or fix it or have a contractor. Like, that might be a good use. I guess I'm suggesting we want to expand that use for more marine services.
Would that not be the old landowners? Would they not come to us seeking that?
If you look, our 10.4 zone, which is just below that marine industrial commercial zone, that's really the uses you're speaking of, Councillor Cole, which is that marine industrial commercial, which is this dark purple.
Yeah.
So that zone does exist.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So then moving on to 10.4 Marine Industrial Commercial MIC zone. Anything to address there?
Show us where it is.
It's this. Sorry, I'm jumping back to the legend to go, so you can tie the legend to the map. That marine industrial commercial is this color here, which is associated with this color here.
I think we decided to leave. And then next one over, 11.0 public use.
We added medical clinic based on council's request.
Any further changes on that one? Okay, seeing none, then we'll go to 11.2 marine recreation pleasure zone.
I wasn't quite done with my question about the marine commercial, because I'm not sure that where it's zoned, where it's sitting is very useful.
Right there.
Yeah, and there's not much likelihood of those things ever happening there, on the water anyway. But there sure would be near the breakwater, so maybe we need to look at changing that zoning to MIC instead of MHI, or adding some uses, something. Because nobody's going to be putting up boat buildings, marineways out there in the streets. That's for sure. And was there an appetite for having a more useful marine industrial commercial zone? Or do we want to abandon the marine industry?
That's kind of why I brought it up, Councilor Mitchell, to add repair. But then I guess it's the question, do we join the two? Is it going to be log dumping and sorting and marine industrial? But you can see, I take your point, if we apply 10.4 to the A-frame area, we could have some significant economic activity.
That's right, we could. And so I'm going to make a motion that we do, change that zoning. There's nothing wrong with log dumping and sorting and storage being non-conforming. They have no, we have no idea how much longer they're going to keep doing that activity, but we know that we do need to branch out into other non-correlated industries if we're going to keep this down to economically viable. So I'm going to move that we change the area that's currently zoned for marine heavy industrial to marine industrial commercial.
Seconder for that motion?
I'll second.
I have a question on that, Kevin.
Sure.
If it came to, let's just say, Western no longer operated here, close that log dump, we can amend that bylaw then at that time as well, correct?
That'd be correct. I'd also like to put forward an option that council could consider as combining the two zones, because they're very similar zones in many ways. And so there would be an option of combining those two zones, the marine heavy industrial and the marine industrial commercial zone together into one zone that would apply to those two parcels. That would allows for greater flexibility for both parcels as an option that council could consider.
Yeah, I was thinking to add some of heavy industrial into the new zone. So I'm going to change my motion to read combine the zones as opposed to replacing one with the other.
And you're good with that as the seconder?
Yes.
Any discussion on that?
So I guess to me, that begs the question, should we rezone some land there too? Because if you look at all these uses, they would require some buildings, etc. Well, you can't build close to the water line. We all know that. And this marine zoning allows you, 12 meters from the high water part. So I can see developing being on the actual A-frame itself, but not that close.
So on to clarify there, what I thought I heard you say earlier is the way it's currently zoned now gives the capacity for future. I get that's the correct zoning that we have. If somebody does develop there, that they can come and apply, and that does allow for that.
The portion of, if we're talking terrestrial land, the land on the southern portion, in regards to rezoning the adjacent lands on the northern portion near the A-frame or just to the west of the A-frame, I recommend not rezoning at this stage. The fundamental reason is council's authority for requiring things of a developer is at zoning. By giving the zoning away, if there's a particular use that comes forward and you as a town need something from them to facilitate that, be it servicing or something else, that is your authority to require that of them. So providing the waterfront, the water lots and that, I see that making sense, but I'd recommend against rezoning the adjacent lands at this time and allow, as someone comes forward with an industrial use, to apply for rezoning to rezone the lands that they would need to support the water industrial use as part of that. Because at that time, that's when council gets to negotiate with that proposed developer for key aspects of that. And it could be noise mitigation, odor mitigation, whatever might come of it for that particular use.
Thank you, that's good information. Okay, any other questions on the motion of combining MH1 and MIC? You see none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And then back to 11.0 public use zones. And I see you've added medical clinic, which we mentioned last time.
Correct.
Any other? Councilor Cole, other questions on the public one or public zone?
Do we even, Kevin, do we even need this zone, or it's like just so people can, they need permission to put down or drop an anchor or something?
Oh, no, this is 11.0. Sorry, we're doing public first.
I apologize.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So public zone, I recommend, yes. The marine recreational pleasure zone, I do recommend having it for a couple of different reasons. You're starting to see in a lot of areas people coming and just setting up and doing things that may not be specifically what the community wants to see. This allows for some form of enforcement if necessary. It's a very simple zone. It allows people to use it. It basically stays out of the way. But if something were to begin to occur in the area that the community didn't want and you do not have zoning, you have no ability to enforce.
Are you okay with both 11 and 11? Okay. I think that covers it then. Okay.
I'm still a little confused about the chicken thing. I don't really remember voting on that.
Through the chair, to Councillor Cole, the decision on chickens was that we'd leave chickens in till public hearing to hear from the community, was the direction that we had received.
All as well.
Okay, we didn't have a resolution on that, but it's, well, we did, we put a resolution there to keep it in, that's correct. How about bees? Where are we with bees?
Similar as well, wasn't it? Or we can.
We've certainly had some interest in bees. Some people do want to keep them. Some already do keep them. I think it behooves us to do our bit for the environment. Bees are good for it, and address it in our bylaw, because by not addressing it, it becomes illegal.
I thought we left that one as well because didn't we defeat about the electric fences? No,
We talked about them.
no, for either Councillor Cole, but
It was defeated. You guys have never seen Winnie the Pooh.
I understood that was really going to let that go to public consultation and make a final decision, and then, at that time, also considered for both chickens and bees. Councillor Cole's suggestion as based on what the conservation officer said. CAO?
So thank you, Mayor Rickstrom. The last resolution that I have was from November 2nd. Carried that the topic of the end of the discussion. That's the final resolution
Okay.
I have on record.
I just feel we've gone through everything in here and voted on it. We haven't voted on it. Maybe we're all opposed, but yet it's going to public hearing as that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that the chicken bylaw include electric fences.
Didn't we
I'll
already
second
go
that.
We
through
did that.
that?
I made that motion for bees, but not for chickens.
Seconder for that motion?
Can you reference where that is in the document?
I believe Ryan seconded it.
Through the chair, it's section 510 on page 19.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I just got a bit of a problem. We've got reports from our conservation officer on both chickens and bees strongly recommending that we do that. I'm no expert. So I'm just leaning, relying on the expert.
Any other comments on it? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Any other topics that,
So at this, can I ask a question? At this time, do we have anything in this bylaw about bees?
Through the chair to Councillor Mitchell, yes, we do. We have an entire section on urban beekeeping that we've added. We actually reviewed this with a couple people from the community that currently keep bees, and they provided comments, and we've actually revised this section based on that prior to presenting back to council when we began back in November.
Okay, thank you.
That is section 516, page 25 of your bylaw, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you.
If I may, I guess my only other concern is that are we done addressing vacation rentals? It's going to public hearing as is. We haven't really had a hard and fast vote on that either.
I know that we had asked for extra information, which Kevin did provide to us. I re-emailed it to everybody. It did come to us before Christmas.
I was expecting something from the advisory planning committee to help us with our decision.
They have sent something in the past to us. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Cole, just highlighted what I was going to say is I do know that working with the Advisory Planning Commission that they are formulating a report on their findings from a survey they did, I think it was 2 years ago, prior to COVID. They want to summarize those findings for council's consideration.
Yeah, through the chair and to council, the vacation rental thing, it doesn't need to be addressed right now. It's something that we can tackle as a separate item if council deems it's necessary, deems they would like to do so. In that manner, some of the things that I'd found in the memo that I provided through is that vacation rentals can be managed through a concurrence of multiple bylaws concurrently for a combination of zoning bylaw provisions, business licensing provisions, etc. And so if council, and would be my recommendation, wants to do a comprehensive approach to vacation rentals, that they table the vacation rental piece at this time from the zoning bylaw, await what the Advisory Planning Commission has, and then bring back amendment to the bylaw that also amends the business licensing bylaw, the zoning bylaw, concurrently with other bylaws as necessary for nuisance and things of that nature to make sure it's a comprehensive approach to vacation rentals.
So if I hear you, we would make a motion to table that, because that's probably going to take a number of months, and we could still do second reading that would go to public hearing with that tabled and.
It's not, it is. We struck it previously.
Through the chair, that is what I'd be recommending, allowing the team, the commission, the ability to develop a comprehensive bylaw package through all the bylaws other than just the zoning bylaw to address vacation rentals.
And at this time, vacation rentals has been removed, correct?
That is correct. Bed and breakfasts are permitted, vacation rentals have been removed.
And the risk of having them in there is that existing operations get grandfathered in if we do change the bylaw?
Through the chair to Councillor Mitchell, the only risk is that then you have to come back and amend anyway, based on all the information that the APC has previously collected that wasn't provided as part of this process. So it behooves us to basically take a little bit step back with vacation rentals, ensure that we have all the information that the APC has collected in the past, all the information that they've developed based on this topic, to make sure that we've covered everything that was considered by the community that we may not be privy to at this time through the process that the APC had held.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, can I have?
I'm just looking. Oh, did I interrupt somebody?
Go ahead.
I'm looking through the handout that we got. What's it called? Consolidated list of resolutions, and it's all the resolutions that were carried, none of the ones that were defeated, concerning the changes to this bylaw. And there was about 6 or 7 action items for the planner, and I'm just wondering, have all those action items been carried out?
Through the chair to Councillor Mitchell, I don't actually have that list of resolutions open right now to go through. Everything that I've been provided with, I have addressed, but I can reconfirm that for you, Councillor Mitchell, in short order.
Oh, okay, you don't have the agenda. I got you. Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Sorry, to Councilor Mitchell's point, so this is all the ones that have been passed, like for public record and transparency, wouldn't we want to show things that have been defeated as well?
No, those defeated motions are all on the minutes. What this was is I asked, because we didn't have a track changes fresh document every
Yeah.
single time. These are the things that were approved that we'll take and we'll put throughout the whole bylaw now at the end of this.
Okay.
Yeah. But all of the defeated motions and all that are all captured in the minutes. This was just for reference.
But correct me if I'm wrong, this meeting, we've been continuing like 3 to
Yes.
1 meeting.
Yeah.
We've done it over.
Well, we'll closed each meeting off and stopped at a section.
Yes.
Yeah, and all of those have been captured in the minutes of each segment that we've done.
But we haven't had the minutes from those other meetings.
Yes, we've approved them.
And through the chair, I will have the track changes document, zoning bylaw document, to you in the next day and a half. And we only have a couple minor amendments to do to the mapping, and I hope to have that to you shortly also. And then I'll work with Pete and Connor to clean up the final documents for public hearing. Before that, I will also work with them to begin notification to the landowners in which the zoning will be changing. We should be doing that at least a couple weeks prior to a couple weeks prior to public hearing. I'd recommend more notification is better in these instances to allow people to have adequate time to consider, have questions for the town, and allowed to represent themselves at the public hearing as they see fit.
And also specified does and the zoning would be 2 separate public hearings so that people wouldn't be confused or muddied.
Yes, that is a recommendation that there be 2 separate public hearings. There's options on the way council wishes to hold those public hearings, and I'd leave that to Pete to confirm exactly how you guys would like to run through that.
So Kevin, the OCP, there's no letters going out to any landowners there, right? It's not specific enough.
That's correct, Councillor Cole. There won't be any direct letters going out other than notification for the public hearing itself. There's multiple ways in which the town can provide notification for the public hearing.
Okay, can I have a motion, please, for second reading for zoning bylaw 705, 2021? Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by? Okay, discussion on that?
I'd like to say that I'm completely opposed to passing an incomplete document. I want to see that all the actionable items have been looked after. I want to see them in the final document. I want to be able to review that final document, and then I would be willing to happily make the motion to go to second reading. But we're not ready to go to second reading because we don't have a document in front of us that is clear and comprehensive. And without having a clear and comprehensive document, I'm not interested in voting for it, and I won't.
Any other comments on them? Question. Go ahead, Councillor Downey, and then Councillor Cole.
We have made numerous, just when will we see the complete document? We do have a meeting in a week's time.
It's a day and a half, so that would be enough time to put it on that 11th agenda.
Yeah.
So there's no requirement to pass second reading at this time. It could wait till our next council meeting.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like the wheels for the OCP should be out here, so we're not really in that big a rush for the OCP or the zoning. So yeah, I'm in favor of waiting for the actual document, so.
Okay, call question, all those in favor of second reading? Opposed? Okay, and that'll be on the next, it'll be on the next agenda, then. Consider second reading. Okay, motion to adjourn. Moved, seconded, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you, everybody. That was great. Have a great day. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Kevin, for all your efforts. Appreciate it.
Very good. Look forward to chatting to all of you soon.
Just so you guys know, it has been nothing but snowing the whole time you've been in the community hall.
Okay, we're not going to let him back, eh?
Big flakes out my window. Have a good afternoon.
Got it.
I
You too.
know.
See ya.